Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to create a very clean, modern motion graphics transition that you can use for your Twitch channels, your gaming videos on YouTube, or even just your standard videos where you're wanting to add a bit of branding and style than just a straight cut. With motion graphics, you can get incredibly complex very quickly, but we're going to keep things simple in order to get the idea across, but do keep in mind that you should customize this, change the colors, change the fonts, and of course use your own logo so that you can style it specific to your needs. We're going to be using HitFilm Express and a stock video from Footage Crate, both of which are completely free. So this is a no-cost option for adding a bit more style to your videos. You can find the project file for this animation in the description, or you can follow along as we create it now. Let's go ahead and get started. Here I am inside of HitFilm Express, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a new composite shot in the media panel. For the template, I'm going to choose 1080p at 60 FPS. Making it 60 instead of the standard film 24 will help make it look a lot smoother. I'm going to set the duration to 2 seconds. This isn't something that should take up a lot of your audience's attention. It should be visible and then it's gone, because it is a transition. And then I'll hit OK. Again, this is a very simple motion graphic, so let's go ahead and build it up with a couple of different planes. I already have one in the media panel here, but you can also go to New Layer Plane if you don't have one already. It's a black plane, so I'm going to add a fill color effect, and this will turn it white. In the controls panel, I'll change it to FXhome orange, but I would recommend using a color that fits your theme. To animate this, I'll come down to the transform dropdown and activate keyframes for position. I'll adjust the X position so that it starts on the left off screen. Then I'll skip 30 frames forward. And I can do this using the Shift and period keys. If you're wanting to go backwards, use Shift and comma. I'll set the X position to 0 here. Now we have it sliding in from the left. And I'll just do the reverse of that at the end here. So I'll move it to 1920, which is the right side of the screen. Skip 30 frames backwards and set it to 0. Now it comes in, holds for a second, and then goes out. I'll highlight these middle keyframes and set them to the custom Bezier type. This will make the animation a bit smoother. If you're wanting to adjust the value graph, highlight the attribute you want and then come over to this button here. This is a graph that represents the animation. We're not going to go too in-depth into it, we do have a tutorial on how this works, but you can see that the keyframes are a lot smoother than if I were to just choose standard linear. And that's all we're going to do for this plane here. I'll rename this orange. Right click to duplicate it, and this is going to be the white one. I'll reset the fill color effect, and you can see that it's covering the orange plane completely because it's moving exactly the same way. I'll just offset these animation keyframes by about 10 frames. So it ends up in the same spot as the orange, but it's a little bit delayed. I'll do the same for the end here. And finally, let's do this once more for the dark gray color. This Footage Crate video that I have here is a motion graphic of a couple of different low poly triangles. And it's pretty similar to the gray that we have, but it has a little bit more texture. I'll drag this into my timeline. And you can see it's completely covering the entire animation for the duration of the shot. So I'll add the set matte effect onto this video layer. And in the controls, I'll set the source layer to the gray plane. I'll set the blend to subtract, and if needed, I'll checkmark invert. This means that the video is only visible when the gray plane is on screen, because it's using the alpha channel. One thing that is important to note with transitions is that there is a transparent bit at the beginning and end. There doesn't technically have to be, it could be a straight cut, but that's kind of the whole point of the transition, is to smooth it. To check if your video is going to be transparent, come over to the Options dropdown and select Checkerboard Background. If you can see the checkerboard, that means it will be transparent. And you can see that it is in the beginning, but then it's covered by the planes and the video. Let's add a logo into this comp. I have it here already imported, so I'll drag that in. And I want it to act exactly the same as the Footage Crate video, which is only appear when the gray is visible. So I'll copy the set map from the Footage Crate video and paste it onto the FXhome logo. And the last thing I'm going to do is have the logo grow over time. So I'll come over to the scale property and click the keyframe button. Make sure your timeline is at the very beginning when you do this. Skip to the end and increase the number to something like 110%. It's not a lot, but it gives it a little bit more movement. And that's it for this animation. You can continue to add different colored planes and videos to really add some complexity to your graphic depending on your needs, but we're going to keep things simple and go ahead and export this as is. I'll come over to this arrow here and select Add to Queue, and then Contents. Over here is the preset type, and we want to export as something with transparency. If you do it as an MP4, it's not going to maintain that transparent data, it will just be black in the background. If you're unsure which presets support transparency, come over to the Presets tab. You can tell because it will say +alpha in the description. So in this case, the uncompressed AVI, the PNG sequence, which is a bunch of pictures, and the GoPro Cineform plus alpha type. Keep in mind that the file size of an uncompressed AVI will be quite big. In the case of this motion graphic, it's a full gigabyte, whereas with the GoPro Cineform, it's about 50 megabytes, so it's much smaller, but still has the transparency. I'm going to go with the GoPro Cineform with alpha property. You can change the location by clicking this link here, and then hit Start Exporting. Now the process that you use to get the video into your streaming software is going to be different depending on what you use. In this case, we're going to use OBS, but it should be similar for your software. Inside of OBS, I'll come in and add a new stinger transition. In the pop-up window here, I'll browse for the file that I just created. If I hit preview right now, you can see that the video is changing at the incorrect time. I'll change the transition point type to frame, and then if I go back into HitFilm, and if I bring my mouse to a point where the video is completely covering the frame, I can right-click this area and select Display as Frames. In this case, 60 is a nice round number, so I'll go with that. Now if I preview the transition, you can see that it covers the screen, and the video cut happens without us seeing it. And that's it. You can see that as I switch between my two scenes, the transition takes place, and it's a nice way to add a smooth animation to your video, while also giving it a bit of branding. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If you're interested in more tutorials about creating a gaming channel, check out our masterclass Game On, which shows you how to create a gaming channel from scratch, including things like recording footage, voiceover, and adding visual effects to enhance it like green screen. Be sure to subscribe for more filmmaking and visual effects tutorials, and we'll see you all in the next video.